It begins with a whisper, an ancient voice echoing through centuries, warning not of earthquakes or fire, but of a spiritual drought, a time when men would fall, not by sword, not by war, but by temptation. Michel de Nostradamus II. History, as Nostradamus wrote in veiled language, cryptic stanzas, timeless riddles. Most searches texts for political forecasts or global catastrophes. But few ever stop to consider, what if some of his prophecies weren't about nations, but about men? What if the fire he spoke of wasn't in the sky, but in the spine, the blood, the seed of the masculine spirit? He once wrote, "From the ashes of desire shall rise those few who conquer fire with fire. The flesh shall tempt them, but the chosen shall not spill their flame. In silence they shall rise in power, will bend around them." What does that sound like to you? Because to the awakened man, it sounds like abstinence. It sounds like self-mastery. It sounds like the ancient path returning. Look around. We live in an age of overstimulation, overindulgence, and underdiscipline. An age where pleasure is sold as power, and men have been taught to indulge in what once was feared. But something's changing, quietly. Globally, a generation of men is rising. Not loud, not angry, not soft, but still, clear-eyed. Burning with inner fire. They are rejecting the culture of constant release. They are saying no to the screen. They are closing the loop of addiction. And they are retaining not just their seed, but their will, their essence, their ancient masculine code. This isn't religious dogma. This isn't moralism. This is biological, psychological, energetic revolution. Because when a man abstains, not from joy, not from love, but from leakage, something happens. His eyes change, his posture shifts, his voice deepens, and the world notices. Women notice. Not because he's louder, but because he's heavier, energetically heavier, because he holds his power, not in ego, but in silence. And this was foretold. Whether you believe Nostradamus had prophetic sight or not, what matters is this: he understood cycles. He understood how humanity collapses into indulgence, and how, from that collapse, the few rise not by accident, but by abstinence. The modern man is not just fighting lust. He's fighting history. He's fighting programming. He's fighting the collapse of structure, honor, initiation, and the man who says no more is not just saving himself, he's reviving a lineage. He's walking the same path as monks, warriors, mystics, and kings who came before him. Men who understood that the highest power doesn't come from indulgence, but from refusal. They refused to give in when it was easy. They refused to spill when they could have surrendered. They refused to chase what was always offered, and because of that, they were followed. They were respected. They were feared. That man is returning now. And if you're watching this, maybe you feel it too. Not in your mind, but in your bones. You feel the pull toward something ancient, toward something sacred, toward something lost. And you're not alone. The ancient world knew something we've forgotten, from the samurai to the saints. From the Stoics of Rome to the sages of the East, there was one truth whispered in temples, written in scrolls, burned into the bloodlines of kings. When a man holds his seed, he holds his kingdom. That wasn't poetry. It was strategy. It was survival. It was spiritual warfare. Because to abstain wasn't just to say no. It was to say yes, to discipline, to vision, to mastery. When Napoleon Hill wrote Think and Grow Rich, he didn't avoid the topic. He went straight for the jugular. He said, "The emotion of sex is the most powerful of all human emotions. When harnessed and redirected, it can lift a man to geniusly vile accomplishments. But today, what do men do with that energy? They spill it. click it away, fantasize it into oblivion, and then they wonder why they feel weak, why they can't focus, why their confidence evaporates in front of a woman. The answer isn't complex, it's ancient. And it was hidden in plain sight. Men were not meant to release every time they're aroused. They were meant to to redirect, to convert heat into momentum, to alchemize desire into destiny. This is what the prophets were pointing toward. Not just the return of morality, but the return of masculine order. Because when a man governs himself, he can govern anything. But when he cannot even command his own urges, he will be ruled by those who can. This is not just personal. This is civilizational. Empires rise on the backs of disciplined men. Empires fall when those men are replaced by boys chasing dopamine. You think Nostradamus didn't see that? He saw the rise and fall of energies. He saw the collapse of virtue, the seduction of men by soft pleasures, and the return of those who would lead once more. You are part of that return. This isn't a YouTube trend. This isn't an online challenge. This is your awakening, because deep down, you know every time you abstain, you grow heavier, rooted, richer in something words can't describe. You begin to walk differently, think differently, attract differently, not because you're better than other men, but because you're done being a slave to impulse, and women feel it. Oh, yes, they do, not in the logical mind, but in the subconscious body, the same way animals sense the alpha, the same way a fire in the woods draws attention, but doesn't beg for it. The retained man glows, not literally, but energetically. He walks into a room, and something shifts. He doesn't compete. He doesn't posture. He doesn't chase. He draws, he attracts, he magnetizes, because he's not looking to be filled. He's already full, and that fullness, that presence, that self-contained voltage, that's what Nostradamus meant when he wrote of those who rise in silence and bend power around them. The world today doesn't understand that man. It fears him. It mocks him. It wants to seduce him back into softness, because a man who holds his energy is not easy to market to, not easy to control, not easy to distract. He's building something, and when a man builds from his core, without leaks, without loss, without lust, he becomes unshakable. But let's be honest, this isn't easy. It's not supposed to be. You'll be tested the moment you choose retention. The moment you step into this awakening, temptation will sharpen. Your shadow will rise. The screens will scream. The women will appear. The thoughts will claw at you in the middle of the night. But every time you say no, every time you override the beast, you forge the man. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to persist, because the world doesn't need another man chasing shadows. It needs men who can hold the flame without being burned, men who can feel the fire and walk through it, men who live above lust, not beneath it, men who... Remember, that prophecy is not about fear, it's about preparation and the return of powerful men, men who abstain, men who command, men who builds us not coming someday. It's happening now, and you are one of them. So, what now? You've heard the prophecy. You've felt the truth echo through history, from the writings of Nostradamus to the discipline of monks, warriors, mystics, and kings. You know, this isn't just philosophy. This is embodied masculinity. But here's the question that separates the awakened from the asleep. Will you act on it? Because knowing the path is not enough. Every man hears the call, but only the few walk it. And to walk it means this: you don't just avoid release. You reclaim creation. You use that energy to build a body of steel, to sharpen your intellect like a blade, to command respect without ever asking for it, to create a life so powerful that pleasure must earn its place in it. This isn't about punishing yourself. It's about honoring yourself. It's not about becoming robotic or rigid. It's about becoming unbreakable. Abstinence is not the absence of power. It is the amplification of it. When you abstain, you don't get less of the world. You get more of yourself. You stop leaking energy into meaningless stimulation, and you start investing it into your mission, your vision, your legacy. And suddenly, you become harder to manipulate, harder to ignore, harder to forget, because you're no longer the man who fades in the crowd. You're the one who stands still while the rest of the world trembles. And women, they feel it. Not because you try to impress, but because you no longer need to. She feels it in your eyes, in your voice, in the silence between your words. She doesn't know why she feels drawn. She just does. Because a man who withholds is a man who chooses. And choice, to the feminine, is the most attractive force in the universe. Because you're not pulled by her beauty. You're anchored by your purpose. You're not seduced by her softness. You've already faced your own darkness. You don't need her approval. Because you already approve of the man you see in the mirror. And when you walk like that, with that quiet fire in your chest, that's prophecy fulfilled. That's the return Nostradamus hinted at. Not in dramatic explosions or world-ending events, but in the subtle, powerful reawakening of men who have remembered their center. Men who walk with the weight of old souls, but the clarity of vision. Men who don't just speak power, but embody it. Let the world sleep. Let them scroll. Release. Forget who they are. You remember. You remember that your seed is sacred. That your attention is currency. That your time is your temple. And that your discipline is your legacy. Every time you say no to porn, to pleasure, to distraction, you're not missing out. You're building up. You're stacking strength. You're storing focus. You're raising your value, and eventually, the world will notice. But by then, you won't need them to, because this path, this return, this prophecy, it was never about being seen. It was about being chosen, and you were not by accident, not by algorithm, but because something ancient in your blood refused to sleep forever. So rise, rise with the kings, with the prophets, with the monks and warriors of old. Rise with every man who chose silence over noise, restraint over ruin, purpose over pleasure. Rise. As the prophecy unfolds, not out there, but in you, the return has already begun. And this time, it's not written in the stars, it's written in your actions.